Is the NFT market in utter collapse right now? We're going to dive into both the good news and the bad news. Which would you like first? My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Metaverse Insider. We're going to get into a lot today around NFTs and maybe the future of the entire system of what NFTs may mean. And I think when you look at not only the market space, but also the potential of what NFTs offer, this is one of the growing pains that, myself, I've seen in the industry. Sure, we've seen almost utter collapse of everything from social media, mobile, the internet. All of these things go through this, especially when you're talking about a technology advancement such as NFTs. So we're going to dive into all that good stuff. I do want to thank our sponsor today. That is Gala Games. If you're looking at getting into blockchain gaming, now let's forget about investing or any of that. Just the pure enjoyment of blockchain gaming and what gaming might mean in the future. Now, whether you're a traditional gamer or maybe you're a new gamer that is starting to look at some different options, well, Gala Games is your spot. So make sure and check them out. Go to Gala Games, gala.games.com. You can also learn a lot more around Gala Music if you're into entertainment, and also Gala Film. So make sure and check that out. It does help the channel out. All right, let's get into the topic today. And there's a few things that I want to touch on. This news item right here from Cryptonomist. NFT market continues to fall down, including the blue chips. And there's a lot here around the blue chips. But a couple of things that I want to make note of is it resulted in an increased volatility across all categories of NFTs, including 500 projects that reported 20.6% loss as of the end of September. And then you had gaming and blue chip NFT markets. The report also points to a 7.8% decrease in the top 10 NFT projects, as well as social NFT, which is also, we're only down, even though they were down, but it was only down around 8%. Also within this, let me kind of zoom in on this. This was a case for in Metaverse NFTs, although there was a slight decrease in weighting in the last Q3. So a little bit of variances here. And I'm going to show you some additional points here. This is kind of the bad news side of it. And there's a lot here in the bad news side. But at the same time, if you're looking at opportunity within these markets, these are the kind of times in which great investors or great, strategists are putting together programs. Maybe they're implementing something in this space, or they're looking at a strategic model of how to go forward with it. But this happens in the real estate market a lot. But further in the article, they talk about gaming NFT projects reported their worst performance. This is down 71%. And the index also indicated that the last day 30, the market experienced a little increase. So just a slight increase overall. Compared to the previous analysis from Q2, the gaming and art ecosystems have seen a decrease in overall growth. So this is all year long, I think, in general, when you look at the whole market of crypto, you look at traditional securities, you look at the real estate market, which we're now starting to deal with. Almost every major asset class has taken a massive beating. Crypto has led the way in this area, mainly because it is one of the volatile assets, risk-on assets, much like NFTs. And I think this is what's caused this somewhat domino effect to occur in the NFT space. I want to show you a couple of charts here from Nansen. This is the overall NFT indexes. So you can kind of just see the downtrend that we're talking about all the way back from January of this year, when we did have a lot of movement up. And then right here, of course, April. And then, of course, the Luna debacle came. Then we started to see the additional, outflows of all sorts of different scenarios that have happened within crypto, which have obviously an equal effect on where the NFT market gets hit. So this is kind of what's happening right now is with the FTX scenario, it's starting to put a lot of pressure on a lot of these NFT ecosystems. If you look at Nansen's, this was the thing that was kind of surprising to me is that users per week, not ridiculously down. So, it seems to be holding under the circumstances. Users per hour, it seems to have its, ups and downs like anything else. But when you look at transactions per week, we've had lower transactions per week in early December of last year versus kind of where we are right now. So could be the scenario. Remember, December of last year is when we started to see a lot of the fall after an all-time high in all things NFT, metaverse, etc. But I think a lot of people have been caught in this situation with FTX. It caught a lot of people flat-footed, and I think right now it's starting to show itself in a lot of cascading effects around the industry. So this is the concern that I'm more concerned with right now as to whether or not, it's not whether or not NFTs survive, but it is going to put such a dark cloud on the industry, much like what happened in the dot-bomb era. Dot-bomb, very similar. In 1999, 2000, when we saw literally $7 trillion get sucked out of the tech market. And it literally happened within 18 months. So crypto is now in its 1-year cycle of its all-time high. Remember last November. And now we're in a position where we're seeing really the fruits of what that damage looks like after several kind of pitfalls that the industry itself has taken. So here's FTX and Alameda. Contagion fears tank a lot of the NFT markets. And this is my point, is that when you have a major like FTX that jumps into this situation and, kind of really just disrupts all things around liquidity, the potential of a lot of margin calls, et cetera, as well as forcing the hand of a lot of NFT holders, which of course pushes pressure on the market, you really kind of see some problems. And one of the things they focus on in the past day, ETH had fallen nearly 7%. Solana tumbled almost 40% here. Solana's price drop on Monday sparked speculation that Alameda had also sold off a large tranche of their SOL, basically to get to liquidity. And their balance sheet showed Solana as its second largest holding. What I would do is check my Twitter account. I put a tweet out, I think it was last night or the day before, that had a spreadsheet on it that had all of Alameda's holdings. So if you're looking at trying to figure out maybe where's the next potential struggle point, make sure and check that out. It's over on Twitter, @PaulBearer. Look at my most post tweets. I don't tweet a lot, so you'll find it quickly. But take a look at that one. This also was data coming in from Dune Analytics, basically saying OpenSea's daily NFT volume on Solana had fallen from about 4,900 sold. This is what worries me, or 70 grand, to just shy of 1,000, which is down to 14,000. That's on their daily volume. That's since Tuesday. So again, Solana is really a problem. When you look at Magic Eden, what were they? They fell from about 153 SOL, 2.5 mil, to around 84,000 SOL, around 1.4 mil. So about half of what they were performing. And then OpenSea's daily trading volume on ETH also falling from 7.1 down to 4.6 million. So this is a contagion effect that is happening. It's not going to go away. FTX, this is probably going to be another drop right here when FTX's collections, their NFTs right here that I'm looking at, all of these are going to go either into a complete oblivion burn, or we're going to see a scenario where they're bundled up and they're basically jettisoned for liquidity, meaning they'll flood the market. And you got to think about this. I mean, you've got floor prices in here, 8 SOL, 5 SOL, 7 SOL now. I mean, a lot of this has fallen ridiculously, but all of this, if you think about the number, 200 plus NFTs there, 1,100 here, 200, almost 3,000 right here, 3,000 of Steph Curry. So this hits the market. This is going to cause more and more pressure on Solana. And that to me is the big question here, is how far is Solana going to go? And if you guys have been watching me over on TechPath Crypto, we did a full analysis on Solana and all of its ecosystem. The ironic thing is the ecosystem is just so juicy. The problem is that the bedfellows that they were connected with in terms of the financial architecture of the system is at risk. And though the product is really great and there's a potential here for it, it's got to be able to make it out of this winter. And Solana is in a potential sub $10 likelihood, at least based on our sentiment data. And I'll show you some Solana sentiment data here in a minute. This was another contagion victim. This is a guy that has a massive collection up for sale. We're talking about basically 80,000 or 80% of ownership on for 8K ETH. So multi-millions of dollars, putting them up. Basically, this guy got caught in liquidity crisis and is trying to have to push his way out of it. And these are the kind of things that will, I think, will continue to play out in the market. And then if you look at the overall side of things, and this is the, the NFT price floor right here on Bored Ape, and you can kind of see, sure, there's been some big fall offs right here. This was back here in May. And this was, I think, the Luna debacle. And then we had the Ben Dow issue. And then you've, kind of right now where we are sitting right now, which is technically kind of nearing a new all-time low. So this potentially could be one of those places where we start to disappear. Let me kind of zoom in on that for you guys just a little bit here. So you can kind of see it. So right here, boom. That shows your May 2021 low. And look how close we are over on the right-hand side of the screen right there. I mean, we're within striking distance of coming back in to that kind of low, and possibly even worse if we see more continued fallout. That's the big question. When you talk about fallout, you got to look back at what happened back in August, and this was Ben Dow. And this was basically a lender for NFTs. And Ben Dow, you would think they would have learned on their liquidity crisis from the past time that they ran through this. That has happened again. So we're back into the same situation. This is the thing that I think a lot of people are within crypto in general, just don't necessarily, I don't know if it's they don't learn or they just have faith in the system. I'm not sure, but in most places, when you're checked against the wall like this, typically you kind of, lick your wounds and you restructure how you do this. And I'm just surprised that this has been the case. This was the article that kind of talked about it here recently. Another factor contributing to the crypto market collapse has been Dow again. And it's a lending system, we know, allowing users to, get crypto loans by leveraging the NFTs. Now it's auctioning off 14 Bored Apes. Let me zoom up on that. From liquidated loans, and the current bids on all of them far below the market floor price. So again, Bored Ape, big blue chipper, that's going to get most likely, torpedoed with these kind of things. So this is the concern I have right now, guys. It's one that I am really, really watching closely. Because again, this is either going to kill the market for a new resurrection at some point in the future when maybe there is regulated art and NFTs. I don't know that we'll go there, but it's very possible that we could see something like that. Or at least regulated security tokens, which is how a lot of these things ride. So this is, I think, really going to represent a complete revolution. And it's much like, as I said, dot bomb, very similar. It was almost burning down Rome and then rebuilding it. That was how the tech industry was in 2001, 2, 3, 4, was a rebuild completely. And if you think about social kind of was that way in 2007 and 2006. There was almost a rebuild and a rebirth of what social media would be. I have a feeling that we are maybe at that place. The question is whether or not we'll see a full collapse. Here's the story right here on Solana's ecosystem imploding. Again, this is in wake of the FTX collapse. They are the tightest network and ecosystem to FTX, and it's showing obviously in their price, but more importantly is in a lot of what's happening around the industry. Solana's ecosystem suffering from the recent news and rumors. Obviously, FTX now going into bankruptcy just as of today, Chapter 11. And then Solana is down 45% at time of writing, so that's a big deal. Data revealed more than 11% of the tokens of total supply may be unlocked and dumped on the market in a little more than 14 hours. Now, they've kind of been delaying this, but this is going to happen most likely. And when we see a 10+% of the entire tokenomics being dumped on the market in a position like we are in right now, where we could see Solana go to a sub 10, you're going to see some liquidations. You're going to see some situations where there's a rush for the door. So a big deal. This writer says basically it's unlikely to be the end of Sol's dismal price performance. And you look at Solana conference, this is kind of tokens are currently processing, kind of being unstaked. So we've got a lot of that happening as well. So this guy, along with many other, including us, think that Solana may be in for still a rough ride. Here's RainFi. This is another example of Solana lending protocol, 24 collection, 102 loans, 1,103 in total liquidity. I think we're going to see more of this crashing down quickly. All right, so that's enough of the bad news. So the bad news is big. And the question is, as I said, does it make it through? What could save NFTs? Now, there's two angles that I think could do it based on where we are right now. Ironic timing is going to be the timing to World Cup. So you've got the FIFA licensing multiple Web3 NFT games for the World Cup. This is one of the biggest sporting, well, it is the biggest sporting event in the world. And the fact that it's so tightly tied, now it also makes me kind of remember back to the Super Bowl last year, which was considered kind of the crypto Super Bowl. Is this going to be looked at as the Web3 World Cup that never happened on the backside? I feel that we're still in a good position for Web3 because it's going to bring in the smart businesses into the metaverse and into Web3, and it's going to be done right. So that is the good news. And I think, being in the right place at the right time with some of these companies is going to be pretty significant. And also, when you're sitting with Lionel Messi, I mean, let's talk about it. This is the greatest soccer player that's basically walked on the planet. And he's now taking an equity stake on Sorare. Now, Sorare, we've talked about many times. I mean, gosh, we had that on the show maybe a year ago, over a year ago. But Sorare is another platform that, again, goes into tokenization and fan and social interaction, much like Chili's and Socios. So there's a lot there that kind of, I think, opens up a potential sliver of hope for where this may go. Some other things that we may think this is a bit overblown. If you look at this, why fears of a dying NFT market are overblown. There's a few things in here that kind of point to, I want to showcase a little bit here. These publications that are writing about, yes, they're correct on, there's a stark drop, yeah, but they're missing some of the bigger picture here. And some of the bigger picture, when you think about it, is how there's more classes of NFTs than what most people think, and most of which are using the ERC 721 standard, which is a growing number of collections and brands, such as Adidas, etc., opt for the ERC 1155 instead, meaning the data they may have left certain segments out of the NFT industry out. So that in itself is going to start opening up some different angles of NFT usage cases and how technology, it's kind of like, let me think about this for web. If you understand tech much, you understand that at one time there was a kind of a legacy technology called JavaScript and still being used today. And then we had a lot of interactive use case for web media that was being used within Java players. And that all was scrapped for what we know now is HTML5 and really how web media is being consumed today. That, I think, is what might be happening right here within the NFT space, is just a transitioning of the technology to enable brands like Adidas and a lot of these bigger players to understand how to truly tokenize and utilize NFTs in the future. That could be the saving grace here for Web3 and for the future of where NFTs are going. This is such a great technology. It's unfortunate that we've had, kind of bad actors really cause problems with it. But listen, this happened on the internet. It's happened in mobile. It's a known fact. Every good new tech draws in every carnival master out there. Other available metrics paint more of a nuanced picture for NFT market. It's in the first 4 months of 22, collectors spent around $37 billion on NFTs. So that's still up. And when you look at that in the potential of how does this look next year at this time, again, remember, we're going into macro, potential more problems within a economic breakdown here in the United States. Could that continue to put more pressure on crypto, which obviously will have a derivative effect on NFTs? If you think about what's happening with just Chili's, and I want to jump over to the Chili's chart real quick. This run-up was pretty crazy. Look at this. Just to show you, I mean, this is World Cup run-up right here. This is October 21st. Up to that high right there. That's a 76% run-up. Hopefully you guys got in. You were following a lot of what we were talking about because we liked this token at that time. And then, of course, we know what happened right here around the 8th of November. We started to see a lot of movement down. And, of course, the FTX fallout has occurred. We saw this spike down, so around 46%. And then where we are sitting right now here recently is coming up from 15 cents to where we are right now, almost at a 60% gain. So this one is interesting that it's been able to rebound at this point. And I think the bigger issue here, because a lot of these tokens have not seen this kind of movement right here. And I'm going to jump over to Solana real quick on our power index. And if you guys are not part of our power index, make sure and jump onto it. Just go over to paulbaronnetwork.com. You'll find it. It's called the Crypto Power Index. We rank a lot of tokens by sentiment. It also measures that. And I usually will compare this with both sentiment and how pricing works. And I'll show you how that works. So let's go to Solana real quick. So let's jump to Solana. Right here is this fall off on Solana. The bad news for Solana is that here we had come down on, what was this, Wednesday? Yep, Wednesday this week, 38.51, dropped to 36. We're now at 35. And this is something that I've talked about on the show, is if we hit a sub 30 with Solana, that's a problem, because a sentiment at that low, especially on amplification sentiment, that means that we are in a position of people have lost faith in that particular project. Around 25 to 30 is the zone that is a problem, and Solana may be entering it. If you look at Solana's price, let's jump up to Solana real quick, and you can kind of see there's the fall off, a little bit of hold here, but we're anticipating a fall right here around the 16. So we think Solana's getting ready to drop again, mainly because of this move right here. Somewhat slowed down, and we weren't seeing this free fall right here that we saw at the beginning of the week, but here at the end of the week has kind of started to flatten out, at least on top line sentiment. You zoom up on that right there. That's top line sentiment right there. And then here is amplification. Amplification, the concern I'm watching on Solana is if this starts to separate larger, meaning a big disparity between top line and amplification. The difference between top line is just people talking about Solana overall, versus amplification is people talking about doing something with it. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to hold it. I'm looking at learning more about it. Those kind of intent mentions that fall into amplification, because that amplifies to others. People go, oh, if he's going to buy it, or he's going to sell it, or he's going to check it out. People are watching that on social, and that's how the metric works. So that's one of the ways to be looking at it. Let me jump over to Chiliz, and I'll show you the difference with Chiliz as well. Now, when you go to Chiliz, you have to go to our Metaverse gaming tokens. So when you jump in there, you'll see all the Metaverse gaming tokens that we track. Here is Render, etc., and then Chiliz right here. And again, right here, this is the good example. Here was this run up on Chiliz, and again, it's performing over this intersection point that we saw right here. Let me zoom in on that for you guys. Right here in the end of October. Right here, it interfaced or intersected with the overall market, and that was what really was driving it up to around 11.5. You go back over here to Chiliz. We'll jump down into the chart real quick to show you guys some cool stuff. And boom. All right, so here was the run right around 11.5. Right there was the tippy top, and then boom, that's when we started to see the crash, and that's, of course, when we started to see the move. Look at this separation right here. This is what, to me, showed the move. So here's the pent-up demand right here, and the intent to do something with that token falls. And see how it falls right there, and it's still holding high here, even though the token metrics on amplification is falling. And then boom, it continues to fall, and then we get this bounce. And essentially, that is on, what is that? 2 days, 3 days ago? 2 days ago, right there's our bounce. So this is an example of how it's being used. Now, sentiment right now on NFTs is one of the things I'm watching very closely. We track it in our overall, just on Metaverse. And right now, Metaverse is down. So this is something that we're going to continue to watch very closely. All right, if you guys are listening in over in the podcast, make sure and tune into the studio here on YouTube. This is the place where we catch it all. And it's also where you get a chance to see these charts. It's when we break down a lot of the stories themselves, do interviews, all that kind of stuff. And also check out our show, Tech Path Crypto. If you haven't tuned into that, make sure and check it out. Even if you're looking at on the podcast side, you can still find it. But anyway, if you guys want to reach me, it's out there on Twitter at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.